And good morning. Welcome to Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host as always, Sabir Alim. So, I was thinking about today's topic. And I wasn't just thinking about it today. I've been thinking about it for a week now. And one of the things that I was reflecting back on was my life as a child in terms of learning responsibilities in the home, earning privileges, getting allowance and not getting allowance. And I grew up in different households. At some point in time, I grew up living with my mother. My mother separated from my father when I was about 5 years old, and I remember some of the basic things in terms of household responsibilities. If you mess up, clean up, right? Real basic. If you're in your room playing with your toys and you leave your toys all over the room, if your bed is unmade, right? If you mess it up, you clean it up. It sounds pretty simple, right? Then I remember living with my grandmother. Well, excuse me. Excuse me, and I remember living with my grandmother, and at my grandmother's, it was dealt with a lot differently. I was grandmother's helper. So when grandmom was in the kitchen and she was preparing a meal, for instance, she would say, well, grandson, could you help grandmother do this? And grandson, could you go get this for grandmother? Grandson, would you go out in the yard and pick some mint, for grandmother for the tea? And she had me doing all these different things. Then when I was living with my Uncle Frank and Aunt Dee, we had a whole different order of doing things. We got up on Saturday morning and everybody got job assignments, right? So for instance, I had the woodwork from upstairs all the way downstairs, right? So you have your little bucket, you'd have your rag, right, with your water in the bucket, and you would have to wipe down all of the woodwork from upstairs that included the entire hallway, right? The hallway, all the banister, all in between the posts, you had to wipe all of that down, all the way downstairs. That was my task, for instance. Then there were times when I had the task of cleaning up the basement. So that means I had to sweep and mop the floor. I had to straighten up or, clean up the tables and anything, if we had coffee tables, things of that nature. But there were always assigned chores. Now, excuse me, in that environment, we got allowance, right? So if you did your chores, you earned your allowance, okay? But the other part to it is your chores were checked. And if they weren't done correctly, you were sitting back to do them. And you weren't going outside. You weren't going anywhere until those things were done. So I grew up in 3 different environments, and each had its own way of teaching responsibilities and privileges and earnings. Right? There was no attitude of entitlement. None. Period. So when I was thinking about the subject matter for today, it wasn't hard for me to conclude that this is an important one, especially on the heels of last week's show. Okay? We have a society today, right, where you know, and I know, and if you're guilty of it, it's fine. Right? That today's children have attitudes of entitlement. They have attitudes of doing absolutely nothing. I guess that's an attitude of laziness. But we have to look at ourselves first and foremost, because the direction comes from us as leaders of that household. Be it you the man of the house, or be it you're the woman of the house. We all too often fall prey to our own conditioning, our own guilt, shame, and embarrassment for failing to do things. And then we say, oh, well, you know, his father's not here and I try not to be too hard on him. Well, you know, his mother is not really involved and, you know, he does his best and I know he's struggling, but come on. You're conditioning the child to be irresponsible. You know, I think back to the first pair of sneakers that I got that didn't come from aisle number 6 in Penn Fruit or at Food Fair. Because you know how we grew up, like aisle 6 you go get a loaf of bread, aisle 3 you go get a bottle of ketchup, and over there in aisle number 7 and 8 they pretty much had like maybe some sneakers and some other clothing items that you can grab. So, you know, Bobos, they make your feet feel fine, you know, anywho. So the first pair of Keds that I got came from Saks Fifth Avenue, right? They were Keds. Now, those Keds, when they came home in the box, right? Now, when they came home to me, I put them in this like museum artifact kind of case. It's an imaginary thing, but like they sat up on a pedestal and they gleamed, and I sat and I looked at them and I admired them and I loved them and I adored them because they were Keds and they were the big thing then, because they were Keds before they were Pro Keds, right? So I had a pair of Keds that came from Saks. Now Saks, y'all know Saks Fifth Avenue back in the 70s, right? Was like, whoa, it's like you went to Neiman Marcus or something, right? So anywho, so I had these sneakers and they sat in this case, this imaginary case, and they sat on the pedestal, and I walked by them and I look at them, and at night I would just watch them until my eyes couldn't stay open no more, and then I would put them on. Right now, they were the sneakers that you wore when we went out. They weren't the everyday sneakers, right? They were not the everyday sneakers. Those are the ones when you went out with mom, when you went out visiting family, those were the ones you wore. You did not wear them after school. The after school sneakers were the ones that, you know, they slip and slide and you can literally ice skate on concrete in them because they were just that cheap. But I was never conditioned about cheap. I was conditioned out of gratitude. Appreciate what you have, because some kids don't have this and you have this, right? So when you start looking at the mindset at the time of being grateful, it still didn't take away the fact that I was a child. And as a child, I'm still going to desire to do things to show to my peers that I got it going on too, right? So what happened was I put those kids on, right, to wear to school or to wear to special events. I put them on, wore them to school, came home, changed into my play clothes, but I kept on those kids. I got instruction on what to do when I came home. You put on the Bobos, right? You put your sneakers on that you supposed to play in. But I couldn't do that because I wanted everybody to see them. They can't see my sneakers if I'm just wearing them to school. They can't see my sneakers if I'm just, you know, wearing them when I'm out with you. When I'm hanging out with the fellas, they need to see them because that's conversation, right? That's conversation. I came up. I feel good about myself now, right? Because they got kids on, or they got Pumas on, or they got Converses on. So, lo and behold, I'm out playing, out in the dirt, playing football, playing baseball, come back in, looking at them like, uh-oh, listen, here's the problem here. I can't get this stuff off my sneaker. And I know my mother's going to check. I done scuffed these joints up, I done messed them up, it's going to be a problem. And lo and behold, it was a problem. I'm saying all this to say that, you know, oftentimes we talk about back in the day and the value of life. That was much different. for us coming up. We saw things a lot differently. We dealt with things a lot differently than the children of today do. But the children of today got a lens, got a world view through us. Their world view comes through us. Everything they see us do, right? Not what we say, but everything they see us do condition us, our children, to have a world view that is unlike that which we had, because we keep reflecting on back in the day instead of emulating back in the day practices on a regular basis. And there's a big difference there. Because when you're engaging a child in some kind of conversation to help them to understand a thing of today, and you throw into their face, well, back in the day we didn't do such and such. Well, my first defense is the child's going to be like, well, we ain't back in the day. Right? If you don't keep using the term before the statement and just make the statement, you're saying something entirely different. Because now you're just playing the role of the parent. You're not making a comparison for the way my mom and dad raised me versus how you're going to be raised today. It's not a comparison. If you saw the value in it, you just preach it. You know, because you are the minister of your home as well. You preach it. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to go down. Right? But we know we don't have that happening today. And this is not a judgment. This is not a blame. Any of those things. But you have to understand this very clearly. Right? We have a system outside of your family system that will deal with your child any way it needs to. It doesn't have to entail compassion. It just has to entail a set of laws, a set of rules. Right? Real simple. That if your child violates these things, this is how your child will be dealt with. Don't look for compassion. Don't look for anything special. Because it's not written in the agreement as such. That's not what that entity is put in place for. See, we're confused. And we need to move past our own confusion. We can continue to fight for justice, and I get all the social injustice, I get all that, because that's not what I'm talking about. So don't turn that into this. What I'm turning this into is familial responsibility and right guidance that you're responsible for in your home. And that we have children who go out in the street with your credit card, with your debit card, with a knot in their pocket to go shop and squander funds. Right? Meanwhile, their grades look like crap. Meanwhile, that house looks like crap. And you're the one in the house slaving all day long, all the time, trying to keep that house cleaned up because your child doesn't know about responsible living. But they got $200 Jordans on their feet. There's something wrong with that picture. So this goes back to, you need to begin to look at what it is that you're doing in teaching your child the difference between, right, earning, privileges, and entitlement and responsibilities. Because there's a difference between responsibilities and privileges. There's a big difference. Big difference. So I'm going to go to this list. It's an article that I found online, and they had a couple of pretty good articles. And this is an article from the Ministry of Education in Guyana, right? And the title of this article is Teaching Kids Responsibilities versus Privileges. To the article. Understanding the relationship between responsibilities and privileges can help children to lead happier, more successful lives. One of the best ways to teach this concept is to help kids see how this relates to their lives and give to them hands-on experiences that will help solidify their feelings on the subject. At-home practice and parental involvement can also be an excellent way to enrich your lesson. You're following me here? Because it's real important to understand that even if your child is at the age now where you have given them so much, it's time for you to regroup, right? Fall back, look at where things are, and begin your lesson planning. Because you're going to have to change this. And obviously you're going to be met with some resistance. But it's something that you're going to have to do. Because a child entering into adulthood with an attitude of entitlement is not a good thing. Because it also, and this is what you have to look at the trickle-down effect, it also affects future relationships. When we look at the condition of marriage, the rate of divorce, right, the rate where people are just like not having civil relationships because of attitudes of selfishness that plague so many relationships, because people have been single-minded, conditioned for so long that it's all about me and what have you done for me lately? That kind of mindset. We really need to begin to look at these things, because that changes community living. That changes our society immensely. Back to the article. So understanding responsibilities. Start with a discussion about different types of responsibilities. Allow children to help you make a list under the headings personal, interpersonal, and community. You following me here? Personal, interpersonal, and community. They're making a list. Personal responsibilities could include taking care of your own grooming, homework, and chores. Interpersonal responsibilities can be explained as person-to-person contact, friendships, or family relationships. Incorporate a short discussion about kindness, loyalty, and respect. Community responsibilities could include good citizenship, taking care of the environment, and helping those in need. Right? Now, if we look at these things, right, we know these things also tie into Scripture, if you are a believer, right? So we need to get back on track. So if we take, for instance, personal responsibilities can include taking care of your own grooming. What is grooming? What is grooming? Now, little boys ain't the only ones. You go outside and play in the dirt and run rampant all day long, then come in the house and want to sit to the table and eat dinner. No, little boys are not the only ones. Right? Little girls do it too. Right? What about washing? How many of your children wash themselves adequately? I'm not talking about the bird bath, like on here, little wipe down there. I'm talking about a full-blown wash your behind, scrub behind your ears, wash your face, get up in there between them legs, both ends, right? Clean yourself. Use lotion. Oil your skin. Keep your toenails clipped. You always want to go to the barber shop to have a tight cut, but your behind stink. Your clothes stink. Because you just take them off, throw them up in the corner, and then when you want to put something on because you want to run out, you put something back on. Right? How about homework? My mother worked 3 to 11, 4 to 12. She worked at PNB Bank, 5th and Market for years. Right? When she came home from work, her expectation was that our homework was sitting on that table, turned to the page of the homework that we did for that evening, right? And any other attachments, those handouts, they needed to be on the table. Excuse me. She'd come in from working her 8 hours, from traveling probably for an hour and a half to 2 hours that time of night, and she would review our homework. If it wasn't correct, y'all know what time it was, right? Yeah, it was time to get up and get her done. We'd get our behinds up, drag down the steps, and make corrections. I don't care how tired we were. We got up, we came downstairs, right? And we got it corrected. Because we were not going to be allowed to leave out with incorrect or undone assignments. Oh yeah, she would read because she wanted to see that page too where it says what the assignment was. You know, the page that children often say, oh, well, they just wrote it up on the board. They just told us, you know, I don't know what, you know. That's all we had to do was say hi to a friend. And that's what called social studies. And chores. Now remember, we're just talking about responsibilities, right? You and I have responsibilities as parents of that household, don't we? We need to get up. We need to go to work. That's a responsibility. We need to make sure bills are paid. Those are responsibilities. We need to make sure the roof is over the head. Those are responsibilities. We're just talking about responsibilities, and our children aren't even learning responsibilities in so many instances, and y'all know that. And we already talked about chores, right? Then it goes on to talk about interpersonal responsibilities. Now this is a real big one, especially for our children, especially in the millennial age, which I like to call the age of destruction, because we have been disconnected from anything that's face-to-face other than through an electronic device. So interpersonal responsibilities can be explained as person-to-person contact. Yeah. Tell you what we're going to do. You're going to have a sleepover. But here is the rule. There will be no cell phones during particular periods. We will engage one another. We will have fun. We will play these games. And nobody will bring a cell phone or any electronic device other than those that are part of this activity. Nobody will bring any of those things. You want to have sleepover? Oh man, you're messing everything up. You are the parent. You are the guardian. You are the caretaker. You are responsible for teaching this. Okay? It also goes on to talk about discuss how being loyal to a friend earns you the privilege of having a good friend in return. What is loyalty? Right? Now when it talks about here being loyal to a friend, that ties back into solidifying a foundation for long-term relationships, i.e. marriage. Right? Loyalty. Right? Not that loyalty that comes from the street. That's a whole different kind of loyalty. That's to get you behind kilt loyalty. Right? I'm talking about friend loyalty, not backbiting, not sitting back and having idle chatter with somebody else about this person who you call a friend. Being there for your friend, telling your friend the truth about things. Right? There's a lot about loyalty that is missing from many relationships. I can tell you today, there are a handful of folks who I will entrust information, personal information about me, a handful, and there may not be a handful. And I'm being straight up with you, because folks kick a lot of game, but you know what? Everybody talks to somebody, so ain't nothing ever a secret. And when you look at loyalty, what you and I talk about, I'm giving to you. It's not pillow talk for you and your partner. It's not. And I think we've lost sight of that. That's my relationship with you. Your husband, your wife don't need to know these things about me, regardless of whether that's your spouse or not. This is something I'm sharing my most innermost thoughts with you. If I want to share them with you and your partner, I'll sit down with the two of you and have that conversation. If I didn't have that conversation with the two of you, it's for the one of you, the one I'm giving it to right now. That's loyalty, folks. That's loyalty. And then the list goes on with other characteristics of loyalty. Right? Incorporate a short discussion about kindness. What does kindness look like? Think about it. What does kindness look like? Alright, my folks on Twitter, I hope y'all didn't get too beat up on that drop. Sorry about that. This thing doesn't grip like it's supposed to. Hope y'all can still see me here. Hold up, wait a minute. Sorry y'all, give me a minute. Alright, I think I got it back together. What does kindness look like? Think about it. To be kind. You have to define the word. See, that's what happens when you start defining, attributes such as being like kind, the kind one. What does that attribute look like? Define things for people. Don't just go from your own head, your own filters of what kindness looks like. Go to Webster's Dictionary. Go to Wikipedia. Go to Scripture. And show this is what kindness should look like. And then have the child say to you what that looks like for them so they understand how to emulate it out in society. It also talks about okay, let's go on to next. Under community, talk about taking care of the environment by recycling. Think about it here. Like, it wasn't until I moved here to Florida that I really got into this whole recycling thing. And not just because the bins are there, because I began to pay more attention, to the ecosystem. I watch a lot of animal shows, and I've always watched, Zoological, National Geographic, all those kind of things like that. But I live here on a wildlife reserve, right, where I see all kind of birds and stuff like that, and I'm at the beach every day, and I'm looking in the water, and I'm seeing how clear the water is, but then here I see a plastic bottle floating by. Or here I see some other kind of debris that mankind done tossed, and it somehow done made its way into the water, and how these things wind up, in an animal, and ultimately can kill an animal. Right? So I make use of these. I drink a whole lot of water, and I toss these plastic bottles, and I get cans, and I toss them in there, and I get cardboard, and I toss them in there, right? Now, you can, also look at with aluminum cans, if you have a child who consumes a lot of beverages, right, soft drinks that are in aluminum cans, they can also make earnings from that. So you can also tie that into, well, you can make X amount of dollars if you go to all your friends' houses and say, hey, listen, I'm going to collect aluminum from all y'all because all y'all drink these damn sodas, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to earn some paper because I'm trying to get me some snakes. Right? So you can tie that in as well. Taking care of the environment and helping those in need. Really, listen. And I used to have a mindset until I, grew up, because, sometimes you got to grow up. You got to shake off the boy. You got to shake off the girl when you're in manhood or womanhood. Sometimes you got to shake off some of those aspects of boy and girl. You got to shake that off, right? So, and then street too, because I have to shake street off, right? So, but when I ride past people, right, who are out, panhandling, right? Now, it's not for me to make that judgment. Now, I'm not saying that I don't, because I know hustlers when I see them too. Right? But it's not for me to make a judgment when I see some out there carrying a sign, 30-degree weather, walking up the side of the highway, 85-degree weather, walking up along the side of the highway, right? Like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Right? So what you do with this paper that I'm about to give you, you do with it. Right? But that's that kindness, right? That's part of giving back to others, right, who are less fortunate, right? But helping those in need. Even if I'm out there and I'm going to take that money and get high with, am I still not in need? I am in need. Right? See, I look at that too. Because it shows you how far down addiction can take you. And if you've never been there, you don't want to go there. I can tell you the story on that one. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to mention, go back to on interpersonal responsibilities, also involved respect. Respect. I've been working in the correctional system since what, 94? And I can tell you this. I have always given respect right from the door. right from the door. That's part of my interpersonal conditioning in my home. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, it wasn't no yeah. Uh-huh. What? Yeah. What's yeah? Now yeah is in the dictionary. Right? That's not a proper word. It's yes. No. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And here I'm in the correctional system where it's the same thing. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. And people look at you sometimes like, yo, what's up with dude? Because I can be in conversation with people on the street. Yeah, you know, brother talking. Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And, you know, yeah, dog. That's my man, my homie. No, I don't have to talk like that. But anywho, so it goes back to the respect. I give respect right from the door. Listen, I'm going to tell you, listen, if you're going to come at me sideways, I'm going to let you know. Excuse me, Mr. Jones, I don't have that kind of dialogue with you. I'm going to approach you in that capacity. If we're going to talk, you're going to take it down. Right? I understand you're angry, but you're not going to address me in that capacity because this is not going to go good. Right? It's about respect. And it's also about self-respect, which I talked about in the show the other day. Right? Because when you look at grooming, it goes back to your pants hanging off your ass. Right? You're not walking around with a belt on. You just rolling out in the morning. You ain't brushing your teeth, wiping that, at least wipe the stuff out of your eyes. You know, you're not practicing any of those things. I always wanted to do a commercial for men, like putting lotion on. Shaq did one, but you know, Shaq is so bulky and so kind of awkward. But that's my man. I love you, Shaq. Don't come looking for me. But I'm just saying, like, we don't have enough commercials, you know, for men about grooming. You know, because men should take care of their skin. Men should take care of their scalp. Men should be using things in their hair to keep their hair soft and manageable and all those kind of things like that. And you know, we don't see enough of that. But anywho, so you know, respect is real important, right? How you see yourself today, how you condition yourself is how you will be, right? Years to come, into adulthood. You ever see dudes today who's like 50s and 60s, right? Who's still looking like they're trying to be in their 20s and 30s? See, I can be fly. I'll be 58 this year. I can still look fly at 58. But I know there's just some things I just can't do, right? It's just some things, listen, it's just some things I shouldn't be doing. Again, it goes back to shaking off the void, right? But it's some who have never gotten out of that, still are there. And they're setting the examples for the young boys. And the young boys looking around like, dude, old head, you a nut. But it's a matter of self-respect. Pull your pants up. Anybody can see you at any given time. And that's how people judge you. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So we just got finished in understanding responsibility. We just got finished covering that. So that's how you have them understand responsibilities. We haven't even gotten to the privilege part, and we're going to get to that now. So back to the article, and again I'm reading from the article, Ministry of Education, Guyana, teaching kids responsibilities versus privileges, because there is a difference. Okay, so these are your responsibilities. We laid out, these are all your responsibilities in this house, to yourself, to your community. Right? Now it's important to understand that you need to be following up too. Don't just tell me these things, right? And then you're not following up to ensure I'm doing those things. It's important. So you need to be asking me at the dinner table, so who did you extend yourself to today? Son, daughter, what act of kindness did you practice? Where did you practice loyalty in your friendship with Mary? Where did you emulate respect in that friendship? You have to ask these questions. There's a follow-up. See, living life is just like, it's a treatment plan. That's all it really is. If you establish a plan, because remember, the beginning of this article talked about formulating a list of personal, interpersonal, and community responsibilities. Right? It's a treatment plan. And people hate the term treatment plan. I don't need treatment. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. We all do. Right? It's called goal planning. How about that? That sound better? Yeah, because treatment makes you feel like you're sick or something. Well, it's about treatment of self, treatment of others, treatment of community. But anyway, so we'll call it goal planning. So, responsibility, back to the article, leads to privileges. Another facet of the discussion is to take one or two of the responsibilities under each heading and guide kids to see how fulfilling each responsibility can lead to earning a privilege. For example, under the personal heading, explain that being responsible about doing homework earns the privilege of a good grade. Under the interpersonal heading, discuss how being loyal to a friend earns you the privilege of having a good friend in return. Under community, talk about how taking care of the community by recycling allows you the privilege of living in a cleaner community with less waste. Y'all kind of getting it here? Right? You have to be responsible first. Right? And nowhere in here when it talked about responsibility leading to privileges did it talk about you get a quarter. It talked about where you get a pair of Jordans and you get that t-shirt. No, because that conditions an attitude of entitlement. It conditions an attitude of entitlement. Because that's the only way I'm going to do this. You going to pay me? What's her name on what's that show? The show with the rerun and the girl, and she was always, you quarter, I'm going to tell, right? Or she would do chores for rides and what, I can't think of the name of it. But y'all know the show I'm talking about, for those of you who know. But it's like, when you do something because it's your responsibility, there's something else that you earn that there is no monetary gain from it. There is no material gain from it in the sense that you get something that you want for that. You have to see the need for what the responsibility bears. Right? See, you have to do that, because if you don't do that, Marvin Gaye sang about the mercury in the water, in the fish. Right? How long ago? And are we not seeing and dealing with that today? Stevie Wonder, Inner Visions. Right? Remember, Gil Scott-Heron. And the list goes on. All these things have already been talked about. If we had conditioned, right, had been conditioned ourselves and continue to condition those that came along since then, what kind of a society, what kind of an environment would we have today? Would global warming be an issue today? Would what we eat out of the water be what it is today? Off the earth, would it be in the condition that it's in? Would we have animals who used to roam free in the wild now in our own backyards? Would we? If we had conditioned ourselves and been conditioned along the way to keep these kind of responsibilities in the forefront of our mind? Just think about it for a minute. It also talks about here how under the personal heading, right, like doing homework earns the privilege of a good grade. What else do good grades get me? How about a whole stack full of scholarships to colleges and universities? How about that? Again, because the vision, you have to have the vision. This is not just for now, this is for later. And what we want today is what we want today, and we keep losing sight of later. So good grades, right, are a good thing, because people begin to look at those kind of things when it's time for you to go to colleges and universities, right? So we need that. We need to look at what kind of future that we can have. Our future doesn't look as bleak when we start looking at the fact that I'm educated, that I have degrees, that I have credentials. And some people will say, well, everybody don't need to have that. Okay, well, you show me where entrepreneurship is blooming and booming right now in our communities. So it has to be twofold. You have to have something to fall back on, because what may be popping right now, for me as an entrepreneur, may be just a phase. It'll phase out and it's a wrap. And then what am I left with? So I still have to go back to responsibilities. I still need to be able to have a foundation to fall back on in case that doesn't work. But when I'm looking at having a family and I'm looking at how people are working 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs, I can change a lot of those things because I can be degreed. Right? Just because I have good grades. And I can go to school. And because I can have those kind of things, because that's what good grades earn me. The privilege of being able to continue education and somebody else pays for it. Right? Under the personal heading, discuss how being loyal to a friend earned you the privilege of having a good friend in return. A good friend in return. Be good to your friends. Be honest with your friends. Be loyal to your friends. Show your friends respect. Be kind to them. Don't be running around backbiting. If that's your homie, listen, we road dogs. Right? I'm going to tell you the truth about everything. I'm not going to see you with a rope around your neck and not tell you to take the rope around your neck before you hang yourself. Because that's ultimately what you're going to wind up doing. Right? And I know people probably say, well, you could have used a different metaphor. Right? Listen, metaphorically speaking, ultimately that's what happens. Under community, we talked about that, how the privilege of living in a cleaner community with less waste. And we're very wasteful, right? That's why people who are homeless and living on the streets find a nearby dumpster, because people are always throwing away food. I got people, that I just see like, well, why would you buy a number 6 when all you really wanted was a burger and half of the drink? Why wouldn't you get like just a burger, right? A smaller burger and a smaller drink. You didn't want the fries. You ate 4 fries and it just threw the rest away. That's just wasteful. And then not only do you take it and waste the food itself, but then you throw it in the street. You leave it in the parking lot. So when I park my car and get out, I step on your burger and get burger all over my foot, or maybe slip and fall. Right? I see kids walking down the street all the time. I see adults do it too. I see people ride down the street and tossing stuff out the window. I see people walking down the street, eating a hoagie, unwrap the hoagie, and just throw the packaging onto the street. I see it all the time. I see adults do it. Right? So many places have put trash cans out, right? If I'm I drive my state car all the time, I keep a trash bag in there. Whenever I go to the gas station, right, I take that bag and I put it into that trash can. I look for trash cans so I can keep trash out of my car. I'm not going to leave it on the pavement. I'm not going to toss it out the window. I do the same thing in my personal vehicle. So it's things like this that we have to look at, that we do ourselves. And that's responsibility. You don't have the privilege of just throwing trash out in the street because you spent your money on it. That's irresponsible. It's irresponsible. If you unwrap that cake, put it in the bag that you had it in. Or if not, take it and ball it up, put it in your pocket until you get by a trash can, or until you get home. That's responsible living. Right? So a cleaner community with less waste. I'm going to say this one last thing. If you go to the corner of 29th and Girard, stand on the Blue Jay side and look north. Then go on the other side where the hat store used to be and look south. And see the stark difference. The stark difference between each one of those communities. It's a very stark difference. A very stark difference. And you find out for yourself what the difference is. That's 29th and Girard. Stand on the Blue Jay side and stand on the other side where the hat store used to be. Right? And you look at the community down 29th Street towards the Parkway. Just stand there and look. And look at the community on that side. Then look at go on the Blue Jay side and look up 29th Street. And look on both sides of 29th Street. Just look. And you'll see a stark difference. That, folks, is how our kids, how we're conditioned to live. And we can't blame anybody for that but ourselves. Back to the article. Activities and at-home enrichment. Have the kids identify tasks needed to keep a home running smoothly. At home, a child might take out the trash, help wash dishes, or assist with the weekly grocery shopping. Each child could be assigned chores and tasks that help the home run smoothly. Once a child fulfills her responsibility or his, he or she could choose from a list of additional activities to complete in exchange for a privilege, like getting to spend time with friends at home or play outside. Huh? Now again, you're having the kids identify tasks needed to help a home run smoothly. And again, it goes back to, especially today, in a day and age where so many households in the black community are single parent led. You understand what I'm saying? So that means you really need some assistance. My mother needed assistance. We assisted by not messing up in those areas, those designated areas. Y'all don't play in my living room. Y'all don't play in the kitchen. You play in the yard. You play in your own room. And when you get done playing, what you gonna do? You're gonna clean up behind your damn self. End of story. Right? So she maintained all the other stuff. Part of us helping was to not mess up down there. Don't have any friends in my house. Y'all sit outside in the front or sitting outside in the yard. But you won't be playing in my house. End of story. Right? It ain't that deep. Taking out the trash. You know it's Tuesday, Negro. Why haven't you taken that trash out yet? You carrying yourself upstairs to go get into bed, and here you ain't even took the trash out yet. Why I got to tell you that? Why do I have to tell you that? That's your responsibility. Right? Washing dishes. I remember washing dishes like it's something like when you're young and you're washing dishes and it's stuff like floating around in the water. It's called food, right? The same stuff you just put in your mouth and in your stomach, but it's like floating and it feels just disgusting on your hands, and it's like a horror movie. Like, you know, you hear Jason and everything else going on in your mind. You're sticking your hands down in this water and you're feeling stuff touching your hand and you're just and you hating on it. It's food. It's food, but you don't think in that capacity as a child. But it's such a nasty task, washing the dishes, right? I'll be the dryer, but I wasn't sticking my hands in the water. But guess what? Later on, when I began to enter into the food industry, what was I doing? Washing dishes. Okay, so, or assist with weekly grocery shopping. How do I assist with weekly grocery shopping? Well, if I don't have a job, right, I can carry the bags, I can load the car, right? I can run up and down each aisle and get what you need from the list that you gave me. I used to go to the market. By myself, my mother gave me a list, I would go to the market. I would go to the laundry, right? Listen. I would take the laundry. I would get the cart. She would give me everything in it. She would give me clear instruction. Me and my main man, Buddy, God bless him, God rest his soul, right? He's deceased now. But me and my buddy, we would go to the, he would go with me. Anyway, he used to go with me, and I would take the clothes and put them into the wash and all that stuff. Now, Buddy, I'm gonna tell y'all real quick. Don't y'all tell nobody I told you this. Buddy would always grab my mother's underwear because he had a serious crush on my mother and run around putting it with him on his head. That's all he wanted to go to the laundry with me for. He was standing, he would just wait to see me put them in there. He would snatch them out and run around the laundry. I love him. That was my man. That was a friend, right? But not because he did that. But so then after I got the stuff in, I learned the timing, how long it would take for them to wash. So if I could go up the street to the store with that little list, go up and get those things that my mother asked me to get, I would go get those things, go back to the laundromat, put the things in the dryer. If I had to go to another store and get something, it was all in a little strip mall area, I would do that. I would come back, I would fold all the clothes, and I would bring all the clothes back, right? I learned how to separate clothes, right? Colors, whites, lights, darks. I learned how to do all those things. I was ironing my own clothes at 9 years old. Well, the first experience wasn't a real good one because my mother bought me this running suit, right? It was one of those nylon running suits, and well, somewhere in there I forgot about like the iron temperature, and yeah. So when I went to iron the leg, it stuck. Yeah, it stuck. So yeah, but I did learn how to iron eventually. I learned temperature settings and all those kind of things. So I've never had anyone who had to iron my clothes. I washed my own dishes. I was a chef for 10 years. I cooked my own food. I don't have a problem sharing those responsibilities. That stuff is important when you start entering into relationships, when you start living with somebody, when you start looking at marriage. Okay. It says once a child fulfills her responsibility, it keeps saying she or he could choose from a list of additional activities, right? Like maybe you want to wash the windows, huh? How about that? Maybe you want to rake the leaves, man. And today, you know, we got blowers, right? Oh man, we can save money. I can exercise too, you know. Got to get buffed up for the girlies. I can use the rake and get the leaves up. I can shovel the snow when the snow comes. Right? And I guess we can all share some stories about the snow season because you don't see kids outside like what we used to out there with shovels trying to earn some money. And that's big. That's like white gold for us as kids, man. What? It's snowing. Oh yeah, get them Jordans this week. All right. Right? All your stuff was done in the crib then because you was jetting. You was out. You was with the shovels, brooms, dustpan, cardboard, whatever. I'm shoveling away your snow. You don't see that anymore, man. You be looking out the window. Damn, I really don't feel like shoveling this shit. Damn. Where the damn kids at? You don't even see them, man. You be looking for them. You don't even see them. And y'all know it's true. You don't even see them. You don't even see your own damn kids when it's time to shovel snow. And they in your house. Like, where the hell he live here? Where he at? I'm telling you, right? Come on. So you want to start looking at those kind of things. So that's activities and at-home enrichment. And the last thing on that list, because we're just about at the hour, is privilege versus entitlement. As an expanded discussion for older children, talk about the differences between privileges and responsibilities. Parents are responsible for providing their children with basic needs. And I talked about that. Basic needs. Dude, ain't nowhere in there said I got to do this, I got to do that. I need to make sure you're clothed, you have food in your stomach, that you have a safe, warm, cool environment. Cool if you live in Florida, right? But I need to make sure you have those kind of things. I need to make sure that you have something to sleep on, right? Something to sleep on. Ain't got to be no Serta, right? You ain't got to have Posturepedic pillows, but I need to make sure you have those things. That's my responsibility. Your responsibility is to care for those things, right? To make sure that we keep these things that I'm responsible for getting, right? However, back to the article, sometimes children become confused. Yeah, they get confused because we're confused and we're confusing. But sometimes children become confused when trying to distinguish between something that is a need, such as shoes, and something that they want, such as a pair of sneakers. Explain that a want would be considered a privilege, something a child might earn by fulfilling a series of responsibilities. Ain't that deep, folks? But again, how many shows have I've done on wants versus needs? We're still trying to figure that out for ourselves in relationships. We're still trying to figure that stuff out in relationships today. So we send confusing messages because children can only make a decision based on what they learn or what they're told. If you're not teaching me and you're directing me to do all of these things, and I'm not learning myself, there will be no trial and error for me because I'm going to be doing it your way, right? And the confusion as to wants and needs is going to always have a blurred line throughout life. Therefore, it's pertinent upon you to establish a foundation, right, of learning in the environment where people, right, can sit down and make conscious decisions, right? Because I can tell you, I made all kind of bad decisions throughout my life, right? I had different messages given to me. A lot of my messages came from the street, but I never lost the core of what my grandparents were giving me, my Uncle Frank and Aunt Dee were giving me, my mother was giving me, Mr. Carl and Miss Mary, who lived behind me, who used to always catch me when I climbed out of the window to run away every week. You know, I learned a whole lot of things. And when I got my life back on track, when I stopped living in that insanity, right? April 17th, 1994, walked away from all that kind of that nonsense, right? All those things, right? My hopes, dreams, aspirations, and all those things that I was shown throughout the years came right back to life, right? But we have a society today, man. Business is booming, right, at the mall because of what we keep spending our money on. If we didn't go to a mall for one day, do you know how many millions of dollars they would lose, if not billions? One day. Just one day. If you want your child to not grow into an adult that has an attitude, who has an attitude of entitlement, it's time to start teaching them, right, how to earn privileges. And it begins with being responsible in the home. Listen, we're at the hour. As always, I thank all of you for tuning in. Listen, you can be doing anything else on a Sunday morning at 9 o'clock than sitting down in your little fluffy slippers with your little coffee cup listening to me. I appreciate it. I'm grateful that you have chosen to tune in, and I will see all of you next Sunday. Listen, you know where I'm about to go, right? It's supposed to be like 86 today. It's supposed to start raining about 12. I'm going to get my pump and run on, right? Get back, chill, and continue working on this film so I can get this film wrapped up. So maybe you can have it under your tree this year. Y'all have a great day. Peace.